we'll get things started with Christian Pulisic. Al Nassr have identified the U.S. men's national team star as a possible option for their attack. Yes, that's the same Cristiano Ronaldo club. The club is internally assessing next steps, including the idea of involving defender Aymeric Laporte, previously with Manchester City, in possible talks with AC Milan. I mean, Christian Pulisic was clearly one of the best players in Serie A last season, one of the best players for AC Milan. And this comes as a shock because it's 1 year out from the World Cup, and you would think that Christian Pulisic would either establish himself another year in Serie A or maybe move to a different club at the European level. What do you make of this, Herc?
This is not a shock. It's not a shock that a Saudi Arabian team wants a good player in a good league. That's not a shock. It'd be a shock if Christian Pulisic were seriously entertaining this. A few years back, I had the opportunity to interview Christian Pulisic in Miami. He was opening up some soccer fields there. And around that same time, there was interest, Pulisic's camp, from Saudi Arabia. And there's going to be interest from Saudi Arabia in good players from now until they host the World Cup. That's just going to be the world we live in. So that's not a shock. It'd be a shock if Christian Pulisic all of a sudden wanted to entertain this. Weston McKennie, he was in the same boat. We were here in Cincinnati. We were here in Saudi Arabia. Good players are going to attract this type of funny money, if you will. And for me, it's not a shock. I repeat, do I think he would entertain it? I don't. And I don't really think it's about the money with Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic has finally found somewhere where he's happy. He's finally found somewhere where he feels he belongs, where he is thriving. It'd be a massive shock for me if he were even entertaining the idea.
The other part of the equation is maybe AC Milan are entertaining the idea, because this is a club that's not going to compete at the European level. That obviously means lesser income for the club. They already made a couple of transactions involving their players. So, Shaka, do you see AC Milan maybe navigating the idea of selling one of their biggest stars just because it would be good for business?
Well, that depends on the price, first and foremost. And while AC Milan are starting to retool and rebuild after what was undeniably a disappointing season, all suggestions are Christian Pulisic is central to that rebuild, as he had been central to so much of what we've seen from AC Milan over the last couple of seasons. Now, there's also a suggestion that Christian Pulisic and AC Milan are in conversation about extending his contract. So, from a player perspective, or more to the point, from an agent's perspective, this interest from Al Nassr is more than welcome, at least in an effort to force the hand of AC Milan in pushing those negotiations forward. And I'm with Herc here. And listen, I'm never critical of players who make a decision for whatever reason that they feel is in their best interest. And if it's financial for Christian Pulisic, that is entirely his right. But at the same time, understanding some of his kind of disappointments, maybe I want to call it, but I don't feel it's the right word, at Dortmund, at Chelsea. Now he lands at a club like AC Milan with their record, their reputation in European football. And again, I see him, and if the noises are to be believed, they also see him as being central to things Milan going forward. I don't think he moves just yet. I don't think that's the right move for him. Continue to be a part of things in AC Milan, in Serie A, and I think that the Saudi Arabia interest is not going to necessarily die away with it.
When we have news like this, when rumors like this spread, we always have to ask ourselves, where is this coming from? Who's leaking this? Because you said it right. He's going to start negotiations to extend his current contract. And always, agents, you guys know this, you went through this several times. Agents are going to do their job.
That's right.
And if your player, as a representative, as an agent, has several offers, then your current club has to better their offer. So maybe is this kind of a play by someone trying to gain leverage in the upcoming negotiation?
It could definitely be a play. But if we're seriously looking, you asked about, well, what about Milan entertaining this? If we're seriously thinking about the bargaining chips Milan could have, Christian Pulisic would be one of the few.
Yeah.
He would be one of the few. They've already offloaded anybody of interest that it could offload. The other two that I could think of would be one, Christian Pulisic, and the other one is Rafa Leao. So if you are...
Gianni Reinders already left for 50 mil.
He's gone.
Theo Hernandez already left for a lot of money as well.
Yep. Santi Jimenez, it'd be depending on where we would see his value either being increased or decreased in the current moment, what you would want to do there.
Jovic to Cruz Azul.
So if there's bargaining chips for Milan, Pulisic would be one of the very few. So from that aspect, Milan may want, but it takes two to tango there. But you're right, and Shaka's right. It's a good time to be Christian Pulisic and have this interest.
Now, this also comes after tensions between Christian Pulisic and the U.S. men's national team, which I feel also we have to bring again to the table and have the conversation. Because when Mauricio Pochettino, I don't want to say exposed, but the federation made public that Pulisic wanted to play in the friendlies and then being released from the team, not being a part of the Gold Cup squad. We thought, okay, he's trying to prepare himself to be ready, be fit, to come to the best shape possible for the next season and compete at this level. Moving to Saudi Arabia, we all know what that means. He's 26 years old. Would that have some sort of impact with his relationship with the national team?
With his relationship with the national team, no. Listen, I think Christian Pulisic continues to be central to all things U.S. men's national team. For me, still the most talented footballer in that squad. For me, an automatic choice. I'm sure Mauricio Pochettino will say very differently, but I'm not under those pressures. I can sit here and say with a lot of certainty, Christian Pulisic will be starting in a year's time at the World Cup. Regardless of whether he's with Milan or he moves to Saudi Arabia. So for me, I don't see that as being a determining factor around his involvement. No. His performances, the level of those performances, how impactful he is, I think maybe moving to Saudi Arabia at this point, it takes away a little bit from the sharpness that I think he gets in Serie A, playing with Milan. But in terms of his involvement, the role he plays, the number of minutes he plays, that won't be affected regardless of where Christian Pulisic lands.
No, I honestly, listen, money is an important factor for everybody. I don't know how much of a factor it is for Christian Pulisic. The kid's probably going to make more off of endorsements than he does right now with his current salary at Milan. He's on a different level than most because of who he is, because of how central he is to the U.S. men's national team, to U.S. soccer. If Christian Pulisic ever decided to leave Milan and go to a lower level of football, it's not going to be to chase the money. It's going to be for different factors. Could I see a situation post-World Cup where Christian Pulisic makes a decision like that? I seriously can. This is a player who's been away from home, 15, 16 years old, who, quite frankly, doesn't like to be in the spotlight, doesn't like to be the face of certain things. Could I see him wanting less of that type of role? Yeah, but right now, no. He made a conscious decision because of the chronic situation he had, injury that he had while he was playing, to take some rest, to better the outlook on next season, a pivotal season for him and for the U.S. men's national team. So right now, on the horizon, I think it's Milan, and only Milan he's thinking about.